Cayman moon,
The voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us here on this truly terrific Thursday edition of Talk Today. In the studio, we have the wonderful company of the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us on what is truly a blessed day. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. In the studio, Honourable Hon Ezzard Miller, Honourable Opposition Leader, is our guest. Thank you very much, sir, for making yourself available and joining us, as we always share. Is something that I think our people don't truly appreciate, the access to our elected members. And it's a good feeling to live in a country that presents itself as not only being safe but stable.
Yeah, and I believe that coming here is part of maintaining that stability, because I think as the politicians have a responsibility and a duty to communicate to the people. People mightn't like what I say and what I stand for, but I think it's very important that they know what I stand for, what I say, and that I'm listening to them, and prepared to take the criticism from them.
Well, that's the thing, it's not only students of history or who look at politics or even economics, but the idea that if the populace is willing to be engaged, now I believe there's a strong responsibility on our part to make sure that we're not only informed, but we actively engage, so that if it's even the private sector is going to be doing something, are you able to comment constructively and timely?
One of our mantras in the opposition that we've adopted is that public money should not be spent in private behind closed doors. Right? Again, it's sunlight and doing things out in the open is good for the country. I don't subscribe to this business that you have to have this secret negotiations and all these big deals because it is going to affect the price or it's going to affect it. That's just bad negotiating.
But it's public money, and not just money today, but money that your children and their children will.
And anybody who believes, right, that, for instance, the negotiation or the bidding process for the final 3 on the port that we don't need is somehow being done in secret and the public don't know what's going on, is living in a different world, right? Because the more you try to cover things up, the more it gets out. So,
what is it that your grandmother and your mother usually will probably tell you, what you do in the dark and what in the light?
Absolutely. And you can't. They came out and said they'd sent out RFPs, and I think they had 9 people, right? And companies or whatever that applied, and they basically shortlisted it to 3, and they've invited those 3, right? And they were saying on Wednesday night that they can't tell anybody who the 3 is, right? But the people themselves are telling who they are, right? And there is a press release from the Minister of Tourism himself based on a statement I think he made in West Bay when they were doing tourism development plan, that he confirmed that China Harbor Engineering Company was one of the bidders, you know.
No, with that, Mr. Miller, as some would share, well, maybe the general public at a stage may not need to know, but the political elected, irrespective of whatever side, and he was very specific. In this instance, he says if there are 19 people, there are 21. If there were 9, those elected people shall at be briefed. If you can trust them in other things. Now,
well, you know, it is preposterous, really, that I think I was reminded last night at the button down meeting, I think it was the 26th of July 2017, because, you know, the Constitution has this provision in it where the members whose constituency is not represented in the makeup of the cabinet is supposed to be invited to government once a quarter to put forward the concerns and needs of your constituency. So we went as a collective group, right? And we put in writing that one of the things that we wanted was a update on the cruise port and a briefing and look at the plans, and the same thing for the airport. And here we are more than a year later, and I think I'm pretty certain I have requested it at least one other occasion in writing, and at least 3 other times, and one of those, if not 2, was actually from the floor of the Legislative Assembly. And we have received nothing. I mean, you saw they had a power opening, soft opening, 1 of the 3 openings, 4 openings, 5 openings for the new airport. None of us were invited. Right? We've asked for a tour of the airport from July 2017 and a sit down to look at the plans and see whether, you know, we agreed with it, well, whether we had any constructive comments to make about it. And for some reason, they won't do it. Now, the question is, why? Now, I have here a folder with a lot of information, but we sat down ourselves and dredged this up from the various websites and documentation during the minister's response to the motion for the referendum that I tabled in Cayman at the Legislative Assembly meeting in Cayman. He quoted from a number of documents, and he promised to give us copies or at least post them on their website. We still can't find them on the website, and we haven't been given copies. Now, we have managed to get copies, but, you know, the EIU is still fairly effective in getting information for us, and me particularly. But we shouldn't have to do that. You know, my philosophy, and this is what I practiced when I was a member of cabinet, the people of this country have the right to know what the government is doing on their behalf. Every project, major project that I did in the 4 years I spent in cabinet, I took it to every district in this island, right, and talked about it and discussed it and listened to the people and got input from the people and made modifications based on people's input. This project of this magnitude, we should have a meeting in every civic center, not just one in Georgetown, right? 1 every 5 years kind of thing, you know? The public should be totally informed so that the public, but I think they're going to regret not having done that, because it is very apparent that the People's Initiative referendum is gaining momentum. They're getting signatures, and I would proffer that the opposition to the port, the more people find out about what we're doing, and the more people find out that the numbers that they are using is not what they have published, right? That the recommendations that they are selectively picking out, you know, to pick one paragraph off a page and say what it says, that the EA says that West Bay Beach will not be affected, right? But they don't read the paragraph below it, which suggests other things, right? And when we start to point things out, people are beginning to get concerned, right? And a project like this, it should have been, every stage of this should have been back. No, I don't know how they're handling the actual bidding, right? Because it does not appear, right? And trying to read between the lines and trying to really figure out what the minister and the chief officer and the project manager and the advocates for the cruise industry are saying or said at the meeting. have to try and, like I say, read between the lines. And what we can determine is that the reason that how they're going to tender this, the government hasn't decided, that we're aware, that we want to spend only between $200 and $250 million. That's what a project must cost. We want 2 piers, right? We want 7.7 acres reclaimed property. Now, that is the most alarming thing about this project. Is the 7.7 acres of reclaimed property that's going to be added on to the dock in Georgetown. And they're claiming there's no upland development. Now, if there's no upland development, why do you need to claim 7 acres? Right.
Can I? No, I don't put you off.
Yeah.
But when you say reclaim, 2 things. One, I mean, it was there before. You just take them back. But this is new dredging that can extend.
Yeah, this is new land they're building.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I just want to make sure I understand.
But it's reclaimed, but because that is,
nice
I would assume they're going to use the material that they dredge up.
Right.
To fill that in.
So they can fill in extended another 7 acres.
They're going to build on what you got there now. Right? They're going to add 7.7 acres going towards the sea.
Okay.
Out to sea. New land.
New land.
What's the point of that if you're not going to have an upland development? Then, and then they're not saying, well, we want the piers to be a solid pier, or we want the pier to be on pilings above the water high enough that the sea will not likely to damage it, etc. So it's difficult for us to figure out what are people really tendering on. How is the tenders going to be evaluated? If the proposal is not on a similar design, on a specific cost range, on some kind of specific financing mechanism, is it 25 years, is it 20 years, is it 10 years, is it 50 years? Right? Is it 25 years with an option to renew if they haven't paid back? Because how are they going to evaluate and how are they going to score proposals from 3 different companies? Now that only leaves one thing on the table. Everybody have been told that the amount of money that is available from our government is $17 per passenger. $12 from that actual is now going in to government revenue in one form or another. I believe, subject to correction, because we should be able to pick it up when we get the audited accounts report. But they've been delayed for a number of reasons, none of which are good. Where the $12 goes, right? The last time I recall, we were told that I think it was $7 is going to pay the financing on a Royal Water extension. I think it's $2.50 or $2 that goes to the environmental fund, and then the balance goes into the Port Authority revenue, right? And some of that might be going to directly there. So then there's $5 from the tenders. So there's a total of $17. Now, I hope that this thing is not being tendered without the kind of controls we just talked about, right? And that the only thing that is being asked, right, is how much of that $17 are you prepared to leave on to leave behind? Because when you try, if you've been involved in these activities in government, right, you have to have some mechanism to evaluate the tender. I hope it's not totally, right, arbitrary, right? And it depends on whether they wear a hat or a black suit or a blue suit or brown shoes or patent leather shoes or no shoes at all, right? And they should be able to tell the public what this is. What are the mechanisms and how are they going to evaluate the bids? Because they keep saying that they can't show us the design because they're not designed yet. They can't tell us the financing parameters because that's not decided yet, right? So, are we just going to give these people a blank sheet of paper and an open checkbook? Because you're going to design it, you're going to finance it, you're going to build it, and you can maintain it and control it for 25 years.
It's operational and everything.
Right, and if we don't have some walk away controls in that mechanism, we have no idea what we get.
All right. Mr. When we come back from a break, could we ask you, the Honourable Minister has shared about 6 months being a strike point. Right? Maybe talk a little bit about that as you continue. The phone lines are open. Of course, you can call and share your thoughts as we speak to Honourable D. Ezzard Miller. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
Brit K protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
Brit K, where people come first.
Did you know that the Department of Environmental Health operates a recycling program in the Cayman Islands? Recyclables such as number 1 and 2 plastics, tin and aluminum cans, cardboard, as well as glass and ceramic items are recycled on Grand Cayman by the DEH. Take these items to the recycling depots located at all Foster supermarkets, Kirk Market, and Hurley's Grand Harbor. Remember, keep the Cayman Islands clean. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. For more information about recycling, please visit DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Now, as we were talking about the port and the lake, and as we were asking you in relation to what the Honourable Minister for Tourism shared about 6 months. Now, he said, we got to get this done in 6 months. No.
Well, I mean, again, and then he brags that he's taken his time and taken it along because he's going through every check and balance in the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's compare the two projects, the airport and the port, with the cruise ship port, right? Now, we hired an architectural firm out of Canada to design an airport based on what the Ministry of Tourism, who's responsible for airports, and I would assume, or I hope, I'm not so sure, that the board decided they wanted in a new airport based on passenger flow and passenger demands, the number of flights.
This is the Airports Authority.
Right. Okay. So they designed the building. Then they went out to construction companies, right, to build the building, right? And they decided that they could finance it in-house. and it's not what they say that that government hasn't contributed, and government put the first $15 million in. Don't forget that, right? And probably can put in some more too. But so you could evaluate the contractors based on bidding on the same set of drawings, right? One wasn't bidding on the three wonderful glass arches, right, with the useless dome, which has no practicality or functional purpose to it, and somebody building on a flat roof with just normal windows and doors. Everybody was bidding on the same drawings. So you could evaluate the price based on, because you're comparing apples and apples. In this situation, what we're telling the people is that we have selected 3 companies, right? We're going to design a port, 2 piers in Georgetown Harbor, reclaim 7 acres of land. They are going to finance it, and they are going to be allowed to operate the port for 25 years to get their financing paid off. Now, again, they're not competing. You can't compare apples. This is not apples and apples. This is apples, oranges, limes, and maybe grapefruits, right? So the question I have is, how is the procurement committee, if that ever gets established, going to evaluate and determine who is the best bidder? Only on the financing side of it. And they only want 20 years for a financing deal, right? So they will be satisfied with a couple of $100 million less in profit, right? Or what are we using? And you see, I believe that the procurement law requires that this kind of thing be determined prior to putting the thing out for tender. Because how can you make the country believe that there's a systematic way to evaluate these tenders if that hasn't been predetermined?
So different criteria. Now, Mr. Miller, some have questioned whether, like the alleged incidents with the Georgetown landfill, that potentially the 3 bidders could somehow form some sort of consortium.
Well, again, this is the concern we all have. And again, we've had now negotiations going on after we came down to 3 tenders. I think in that case it came from 7 to 3, right? And we've spent, over a year negotiating with them. The punter doesn't know whether the 3 people actually put in separate bids that were evaluated, or as some people have suggested to me, that there were some machinations that went on before the evaluation took place, which left us with only 1 bidder, right? Now, my position is I think the law requires the whole project to be retendered. But because you can't allow people who purported to qualify on their own and met the criteria for the request for proposal, and the government certify that each one of them could do the project. But because they heard or they believe something would happen that they might not be the front runner, for them then to go behind the scenes, right? And as my grandmother would say, corn swabble some deal with each other, so you're left with 1 tender. And what we have been doing for the last year now is trying to negotiate with this tender to come to some reasonable position. Now, if that happened, right, the procurement committee, I believe by law, is bound to abort the process.
I know you said it, Mr. Miller, but if there is no final design, how can people submit a bid on something? I mean, you've referenced the criteria, but
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. The only conclusion I can come to is that this all boils down to money, right? And how the money is going to be organized in this situation for the cruise port, right? The last time it was done that we went to actual signed letters, selected a one, everybody bid on the same drawings, right? So I don't know. It's disturbing to know that the largest project by close to 100%, for this country is being handled in this undetermined and secret way.
We're speaking to Mr. Ezzard Miller. Sorry, we do have a caller online. For those who want to join us, it's 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling, Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon, sir.
I heard all these objections about the port, but there were a lot of people that saying should put it in the North Sound. But the biggest problem is the fear of all this still going on the reef. So why is it not possible? And so have in the Contractors Association, the heavy equipment operators in Cayman here, using what are called excavators to build like 100-foot boundary in a ship like a teardrop, starting from like Barker's Narrow. As you go further south, it gets a lot wider from the mainland to the North Sound. So if we identify an area like a teardrop shape and have the excavators make a boundary right around the borders, right? No silt would be going in the North Sound. And when you're dredging out inside of that circle, no silt will go into the North Sound area. The only time we'll have to cut through is when you're ready to cut the channel. We have a big channel there. The only time will be in effect is the short distance between the island and the North Sound. Now, I also think that the seafarers, they are the best advice you could ever get. Some of these captains have been traveling all over the world and know all these dredging equipment, that they could get a contract to dredge out inside of the circle now, the like teardrop, and they would know how wide it needs to be at the channel area for the ship to come in. And as they get further south, wider, there's a big basin on the end, and that is like that of the North Sound is actually about 3-4 miles from the mainland, right? So we could build something like a mile away from the reef, and most of that land in there is just grass and rock, right? And you have one of the best ports in the world, at least in the Caribbean anyway, right? And the whole time people used to, when they're traveling barges up the river, they had like donkeys on each side pulling the barge around. But we have better equipment now that as the ship entering, we could have the machinery to pull the ship through a smaller channel until you get far away, and the big open area can actually turn around, and we can make it long enough that we could put 2 or 3 ships on each side with space for, near to the North Sound and Stingray City, near to people going up to Rum Point. The only way we would come ashore is near the Barker's area, where we have roads at bottom of the New and Barker's to go out to start a farm or back into town. We would create a natural little beach, not too wide, but maybe 1/4 mile or more, at the narrow part by Barker's. You would have a big land area. You could have like rock concert on one end and religious concerts on the other, because no ships are there in the night. So many possibilities. And I don't see if they build that border around, to keep all the silt in, I mean, that still wouldn't jump over the 100-foot landmass to go into the North Sound. So I'd like to hear your ideas of that, Mr. Miller. Sorry.
Well, I think that the experience we've had with dredging the North Sound is that all those areas that are dredged, there's still silt around that gets stirred up by boats if their draft is too deep going across the North Sound now. So I don't know that. And we've had at least 2 proposals that I am aware of for putting a cruise port and a cargo port in the North Sound and creating islands in the middle of it that was shot down by the people a long time ago for many of the same environmental and other reasons, the cost factor and everything else. So I don't think that that's a real viable alternative at the point in time. The captains, Captain McCoy and Captain Paul Hurlston and a couple other ones got together and with their own resources and some assistance from, I believe it was Mr. Barnes Connolly, did a proposal to the government which I don't think they gave any consideration to put it up in the Haterade Bay, because their argument is that would be a 24/7, 365 port, and you wouldn't have as much in a concern because the way they've designed it would be very similar to Nassau Harbor, where it's almost landlocked. So although the wind would be a factor, there's no wave action that would. The problem that they're going to have in Georgetown Harbor is, in addition to the wind, is wave actions of different frequencies and different heights and everything else. So,
thanks very much, sir, for posing that. Mr. Miller, with that, we'll just pause quickly and take a short break. When we come back, please stay tuned.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give your praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call. It's your name in the name in the Lamb's Book of Life. Roll call, brother, sister. Roll call. If you don't stop shouting, if you don't stop dancing, we're going to put you out of our church.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Live in me.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And in the studio, the Honorable Opposition Leader, Honorable Hon Ezzard Miller, is our guest as we're talking about many things, but including in particular, as you shared, Mr. Miller, this is, well, let me ask. It has been said, you alluded to it, probably to date in our country's history, potentially the single most expensive capital project.
By far, I mean, the other one, the highest one about that was the two high schools.
Okay.
Right? Which were, so the one in Clifton Hunter was supposed to be 50-something million. I don't remember the exact, 56 or 57 million or something like that. And it wound up 110, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is already 200 plus. So it's twice as big.
And then there's
the
some
government administration building, if I recall, was somewhere around 100, 110 million or something like that.
That seems to be the going price these days, $100 million buildings.
Yeah.
I hope for the people to see that. But there are some Caymanian, non-Caymanian, like people who do finance, accounting, and others who have just numerically sat down with pen and paper, calculated spreadsheet, what have you, and said, okay, if X is Y times Z equals this and that, and just did some numbers, they're saying this is an easy $1 billion project. Not just the cost.
If you add in the financing aspect of it over a 25-year period, and they're saying that even if you take up, because the only reason how to increase passengers is if you took up the whole $17 by the numbers now, couldn't pay it. Right? So they're saying that they need to go up by another 400,000 to 600,000 passengers from 1.7, 1.8, depending on whose numbers you believe, to 2.3, 2.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a straightforward multiplication. I mean, you know, if we assume that and you have to take the worst case scenario, which would be to take the whole $17. Well, I think if you add that out, multiplied by 2.5 million per year, multiplied by 25 years, you can get somewhere up around $800-900 million on a $250 investment. That's not bad returns. And if that's what the government is offering, then my position is we should offer it to Cayman pensioners, right? And let them get the windfall as opposed to some outside entity.
No, but with that as well, and
no, but I mean, if you would invest in 250 million, right?
And you get 4 times back.
And over a 25-year period, that's not bad returns.
Right. But can we ask then, part of the assumptions, as you just shared, 400 to 500,000 increase in passengers. We're at what, 1.5, 1.7?
Well, let's not guess at it, Mr. Sterling.
Okay, yes.
The government, Cayman Islands Destination Performance Report 2017. This was tabled in the Cayman Bragg meeting. So let's look at their facts. And of course, we look at historical because this is the 2017, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're saying in 2017 we had 418,403 stayover visitors. We had 1,728,444 cruise passengers. That's 4 to 1, roughly, right? Now, again, and they have in the back of this book, on page 113, kind of curious. They got the pages in the middle of the page on the side, as opposed to down the bottom or up the top. But anyway, it's part of the Minister of Tourism new market and design, I guess. But let's look at the numbers. In 2000, we had 354,087 stayover tourists. We had 1,030,857 cruise passengers, 3 times. There are little dips, and I won't read them all out.
Right, yes, sir.
But you compare 2000 to 2017, right? We are now getting, in 2017 last year, we had 4 times the number of cruise passengers that we had stayover passengers. Now, if you look at the tourism plan, one of the big concerns in that by the people who did the plan is this ratio of cruise passengers versus stayover passengers. And the reason for that is trade economics. A cruise passenger throughout the Caribbean, right, versus a stayover passenger. Stayover passenger spends on average 11 times what a cruise passenger spends, right? So if we were having pressure in 2000 when we only had 3 times as many, right? But in 2000, we had Royal Palms, we had Tika Beach, we had Handel Place, can't remember the name of it now, and the other hotels were being used, some of them on the public beach. In 2017, we had, for that 1.7 million, we had Royal Palms, Tika Beach, Handel facility, I can't remember the name right now, and public beach, without interfering with the hotels, right? Now we're proposing to go, when this thing is finished, from 1.7 to 2.5 million, right? And we're supposed to entertain them and how them see 7 Mile Beach, swim in our crystal clear waters, walk on the beach, without Royal Palms, without Tika Beach, without Handel's business on 7 Mile Beach, right? And we were left with the public beach on 7 Mile Beach, right? Now think of what level of passenger satisfaction you're going to have in that situation. And right now, you can be probably one of the few ports in the world, if not the only one, that you can come off the cruise ship and within walking distance go snorkeling, scuba diving, take a glass bottom boat ride, because you got these beautiful live reefs that people, according to the government's own EIA report, are currently generating $19 million per year, between 19 and 27 million per year. Now, all of those are going to be wiped out, and that is part of the lost opportunity cost and lost revenue for Georgetown economy, right? Is between 19 and 27, not over the life of the project, per year.
Per year.
So over a 25-year period, that's what, $500 million that is being removed by the creation of this thing, right? So where are the 2.5 million passengers supposed to go?
Now, as you go to the break, could we ask this question and ask maybe people to weigh in? If we're going to move realistically from 1.7 million to 2.5 as you shared, and that's the assumption that in order to make it financially feasible, is that a reasonable increase? Percentage-wise, we can, factor it in and figure out how much it is, and numerically, it's 1.7 million to 2.5 million. But that increase in people from a percentage or from the border itself, is that a reasonable, proposition? All right, we're going to hit our headline news at 1. When we come back, we invite you to be a part of the discussion. Join in if you choose. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Headline. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
Shortly before 2 a.m. today, officers responded to a report of a stabbing in the parking lot of a bar on Smith Road near the intersection of Bobby Thompson Way. Upon arrival, officers observed a male victim who was subsequently transported to the Cayman Islands Hospital for treatment. The matter is currently under investigation, and police are appealing for anyone who may have witnessed the incident or have any information to contact the Georgetown CID at 949-4222. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Russian spies have been accused of involvement in a series of cyber plots across the globe, leading the U.S. to level charges against 7 agents. The U.S. Justice Department said targets included the global chemical weapons watchdog, anti-doping agencies, and a U.S. nuclear company. The allegations are part of an organized pushback against alleged Russian cyber attacks around the world. U.S. senators are sparring over an FBI report into sexual misconduct claims against Brett Kavanaugh, President Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee. One copy of the report exists for all 100 senators to read. Democrats said it was incomplete, and Republicans retorted it did not support the accusations. Judge Kavanaugh has vehemently denied all allegations against him. And the quest for extreme selfies has killed 259 people between 2011 and 2017, a 2018 global study has revealed. Researchers at the U.S. National Library of Medicine recommended that no selfie zones should be introduced at dangerous spots to reduce deaths. These would include the tops of mountains, tall buildings, and lakes, where many of the deaths occurred. Drowning, transport accidents, and falling were found to be the most common cause of selfie deaths. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
The NCVO needs your help. Tune in to the annual radio telethon on Saturday, October 20th at 7 p.m. for the best in local entertainment, including C&B, Trinity, Little Magic, Roy Bodden, and High Tide. Call in to pledge any amount or donate online at CaymanGiftCertificates.com to be entered to win over $5,000 worth of prizes. The NCVO's annual radio telethon is broadcasted live from Prospect Playhouse on Radio Cayman and Cayman 27. The NCVO is one of Cayman's oldest charities dedicated to the care, education, and well-being of children and families in need of support. Tune in to Radio Cayman and please help us help our children. The annual Radio Telethon, Saturday, October 20th, 7 p.m. to midnight, live from Prospect Playhouse.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us in the studio. Honorable Hon Ezzard Miller, the Honorable Opposition Leader, is our guest as we are speaking primarily and initially about the port. Mr. Miller, as a caller off air shared with me, if you do 500,000 increase on a present 1.7, that's almost 30%. That's not his words, that's not a reasonable assumption in his business. If he has a 30% increase, that's significant.
Absolutely.
All right. Anyway, people are listening, so share with us, please.
Yeah, well, one of the other things that and we dealt with what they're saying, that there's been a reduction in cruise passengers, right? Mm-hmm. Again, that doesn't, their own document doesn't bear that out, right? In 2016, we had 1.711849. In 2017, we had 1.728444, right? There's a small dip from 2015. We had 1,716,000 versus 1,711,000, right? Mm-hmm. 2018. So there's no this extrapolation that they are making is that if we don't build this pier, or cruise passengers are going to be cut in half. It is just nothing other than fear tactics. Somebody asked me yesterday about what did I think was the difference in Honorable Motorcycle Colonel and I both did op-eds for the Compass on the cruise port. What was the difference in two articles? So I tried to explain to the person, well, I tried to write an intellectual article, identify some problems, offer some solutions, etc., etc. I thought that Mr. Moses wrote an emotional article based on fear, and that's not fair to the people of this country. But of course, everybody tells you in politics, which is something I've never been willing to do, is the easiest how to develop a following is to spread fear, right, and hate. And we know how well that was done here quite recently in some other jurisdictions. One of the things that they're also promoting is that because we're not getting the Oasis class ships, we're not getting the, and I use rich very, very broadly, right? We're not getting the kind of people who have money in their pocket to spend on shore, right? Now again, this comes out of their own statistics, page 90 on the same document, household income for cruise passengers. It says, based on results from the 2017 Cruise Visitor Exit Survey, 39.4% of the visitors reporting having an annual household income between US $100,000 and US $150,000. The number of cruise visitors falling in the US 100,000 to US 150,000 average household income range in 2017 was an increase over the 26.2% in 2016. Now, we didn't have a mega ship in 2016 or 2017, right? But they'd have you believe that the people that are coming on the smaller ships are poorer people, so to say. And I'm using those things, right? Yeah. But they have that they're. But here again, they deny that. They prove themselves wrong, right? I can give you another figure that they use. They talk about, again, when they do an evaluation of the occupation, right? 86% of their cruise passengers fall in either managerial, professional, executive, 51.7%. By far, more than double any other one, right? Now, those are high-income people. Retired, unemployed homemaker, 18.1%. Technical, skilled trades, artisans, 9%. Consultants, 7.6%. So we consider all of those high-end people. Administrative, clerical, sales, 5.8%. Teacher, lecturer, clergy, 4.1%. Hospitality, service, trade, 2%. Student, 1.6%. Other, 1%. So again, what they're telling you is that because we're not getting the Oasis class ships, we're not getting people who have money to spend. This belies all of that. 86+% of those fall in occupations that have that $100,000 plus per year annual income.
We do have some calls online, Mr. Miller.
Sure.
In the studio, Honorable Ezzard Miller is our guest. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. I was listening to the show, the harbor. You know, I think Ezzard is right on where he says that everything he said. Because someone called just a while ago about the North Sound. What a catastrophe that would be. The North Sound, 50% up there is rough. And if you broke that by bulkhead that God put there, it would be goodbye West Bay and town. And if we have a season, and a good part of the others too. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they're talking about with North Sound. That's the breeding ground for fish and lobsters and conchs too. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we got little enough now, but imagine what would happen with the sludge and thing going in there, and in rough weather. No ship would be able to go through that channel. Those who suggest the North Sound need to get their head examined. But that is, all they got, that plan Mike made a couple of years ago about cutting the channel in the reef, building 2 islands and all that. That's bull.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what it's like.
People who don't spend time in the North Side, think the North Side don't get rough, sir.
Yeah, that's right. That gets rough. I mean, as it is now, the channel, you got to not be channel in the winter time. Or you'd have, I think you'd have something that flies over it.
Well, you know what happened to the police in their big boat when they tried it?
Yeah. They don't know. And I mean, when we look at things with eyes that not filled with greed, talking about Georgetown, I said years ago, if there was any place that a channel would be good, would be Georgetown. If they could put it there. But you can't put no ship dock, big ship dock in Georgetown. We will ruin towns, we will ruin West Bay Beach, and probably mess up around Northwest Point too. So I don't know whose idea it is. If they think dollar bills will stop that channel, let's go ahead. We don't need a channel. We just need to take care of what we got.
Well, this is our position is that in anything, enough is enough, right? Yeah. Anything more than enough is trouble, right? And it messes up enough. Yeah. And at some point in time, we have to determine what our maximum capacity with cruise passengers is.
Right.
The fact that we license more buses and we license more businesses, that don't mean we can handle more people.
No.
We're just dividing up the pie into more people.
Yeah.
And, when Mr. Norman did the tourism plan in the early 90s, I think it was, what was it, Cooper?
92, Cooper's Library.
Right, Cooper's and Library that did a plan. We had those kind of things in it. Remember, they recommended we put a moratorium on hotels on 7 Mile Beach, and we stopped Mr. Matalan from building his hotel on the north sound side of that, right? Because the plan didn't call for it. It was only when we were kicked out of office in 92, right?
Right.
That a new government came in and they lifted the moratorium. And we built the Radisson. We finished the Radisson was being built. And that was the only hotel that was being built during that period down there. Then he built the Westin after that, the Scene People, and he built the old Cayman Holiday Inn. And neither one of the three hotels have really been successful as hotels. They've changed owners at ship a number of times. There have been reports that they may go in liquidation. Remember?
Yeah.
Because I think if I remember correctly, their recommendation was that we shouldn't build another hotel after the Radisson until all the hotels on 7 Mile Beach had a 80% occupancy, because that's what it takes to make money in the hotel business. And these are the kind of things that we got to be real about, right? And it's not good. You can't add another 400 to 600 passengers to Georgetown, and you're trying to make people who are in the business believe that means they're going to make more money.
No.
I would hazard to guess that they're going to make less money.
Less.
Because if you talk to some of the salespeople in the stores, some of them will tell you they make more money when there's no cruise ship in.
Right.
Because they can practice their salesman techniques. They can raise the value of what the customer is buying by giving sales advice, by giving good advice. When you have 200 people in the store and everybody's shouting at you, they want to cash in now. If he picks up a $5 or a $10 or a $20 set of study earrings, you're happy to make the sale, right? And what's going to happen now, if you go downtown now, most of us tell our friends don't go downtown when cruise ships are in. There's a reason for that. And adding those people I would hazard a guess that what is going to happen is that everything in Georgetown is going to have a line. We're going to be just like Disney. You're going to line up to go into Hard Rock. You're going to line up to go into stores. You're going to line up to go into restaurants. You're going to line up to get a dive in the water. You're going to right? And you'll get to a point that says it's a 2-hour wait from this point. Right? Because that's just how it's going to be. And people are going to get fed up and go back on the ship. Because the other thing that we have to understand, that all of these ships that come here, the people on that ship have paid for everything before they left Fort Lauderdale or wherever their home port is. Food, liquor, entertainment, it's all paid for up front. Right? So, and if you talk to some of the people who drive the tenders now, they'll tell you that the ship comes in 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They start take people off 8:30, 9 o'clock. Sometimes by 11, 11:30, they're taking people back on the ship. Because the time for them to go by and get their lunch, they're already paid for. Right? So when you turn up to a store or a restaurant or a T-shirt shop and the line is outside the door, what do you think they're going to do?
I know what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm. But we are making, the government is making the people in the industry believe that more means more money. It does not.
More, not better.
That's not always. Enough and anything is still enough.
Well, like all the other people, they're not all honest. That's the ship.
Yeah.
And they got to, when they get them crowded, they got to watch.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else you want to share, sir?
Thanks for calling, sir. I really appreciate it.
All right.
That's all I want to say.
Yeah. Thanks very much, sir. God bless. Mr. Miller, we do have some other callers. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello? Yes?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
I was just listening here to this discussion, and my mind went back to, I kind of echo what that, I guess was the last caller had to say about dredging the North Sound. My mind went back to, I think it was early 1980, when a well-advanced, developed plan was put on the floor or put on the soil here amongst the community to dredge the North Sound. And Radio Cayman did an open line, put it out to the public, and it sank right there.
Yep.
I guess there was no referendum back in those days.
Nope.
But I guess what Radio Cayman did on that evening served as probably the first referendum in Cayman.
Yes, sir.
With Dwayne Miller really conducting the affair.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I'd share that with you.
The difference then was, was that you had people in the government who was listening to the people. That's the difference.
Well, that's what happened in 1980.
I know.
But dredging the North Sound is, should be completely out of the.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, I'll continue to listen.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much for sharing. Now, Mr. Miller, there are a number of people who have increasingly shared that they're challenged to be able to make any sort of meaningful contribution. Some of the things that you've highlighted, well, they're not sure of what the design, what the financing package will look like, what are all the other parameters. But the lack of sort of an evaluation of alternative sites, even if the North Sound, as the last two callers have shared, should even be considered in the evaluation process. A handful of people shared, well, yes, you need to put all potential, sort of locations in the mix so that you can come up with the best decision.
Yeah, and I believe that that's fair, and I believe that here is the three positions that we have, because it's not going to work on the east end of the island because of the prevailing weather, right? Even with tenders, right? From Bordentown, Rum Point, the whole eastern section, it's very difficult to build a port on any of those areas. So we basically have four alternatives. The North Sound, which we know that people have rejected resound on at least 2 occasions that I'm aware of in my lifetime. We have the possibility of Northwest Point, right, which is again is super exposed to the weather. We have Georgetown Harbor, which is currently being used in good weather, and we have South Sound, right. Now, 2 of the most experienced sea captains in this country, and in fact, I will go to limb to say that the most experienced sea captain in this country, right? Captain Harris Harold McCoy, who has 65, right, 64 years experience at sea. Not in his 64 years; he's 81 years old.
And he's still doing stuff.
That he only retired last year,
yeah,
right? And I would hazard a guess that out of that 64 years, 60 years is on the bridge, if not in command, second in command, right? And he's been on everything that floats, right, in a can, right? Him and some other captains have put a proposal forward to do South Sound. We understand that includes a lot of environmental damage, right, et cetera, But if you want it, that's the place they believe to put it based on their international experience and how you handle ships. And, but these people are not being consulted by these people. I showed him the plans that were being proposed with the 2 piers. And he looked at it and said, well, it can't work, right? I said, what do you mean it can't work? He said, it can't work, right? I said, well, why? He said, too close together. He said, people need to understand that a ship is like a sailboat. The big part of it about water. And he told me that he had just come back. This was over a year ago that I spoke to him first about it. When he was taking fuel, oil, etc., bunker, whatever it was, off the biggest supertanker in the world and putting it onto a much smaller ship. And that smaller ship now was bigger than anything that come Cayman, trust me. And he says, when he get the ships going together, how he want them, he used 9 to 12 ropes to keep them in place before he put the manifold that transfers the stuff on board. He says, and they about it tying up to one of those piers with a 15 to 20, 25 knot crosswind, right, which is again one of the bad designs of the port, is that we are anchoring the cruise ships broadside to the wind, right? Going to need 9 plus ropes to keep her to the dock. And, getting all those ropes disconnected and getting them on board and everything else, and then getting the, he going to blow down into the ship before he get it from between the 2 piers. But you see, none of these people that they're consulted, right, can make that kind of instant assessment based on experience, right? And he would be quite willing to look at their plans and tell them, right, what can work and what can't work, right? But they're not interested in hearing that. We are single-mindedly focused that we need to build 2 piers in Georgetown on which we're going to tap 4 ships or more, right? Nothing else. Now, the other side of it is that, you've heard from the media that there's around about 104, plus there might be some that is already in the development stage. But in terms of the number of cruise ships that are going to be built over the next 10 years, it's around 104 plus. Only 12 out of those are OSS class ships, And all 12 of them coming to the Caribbean. I think the documentation that we have suggests that Norwegian Cruise Lines, I think it was one are doing something like 7 ships. Only 1 is OSS class. So the government is trying to make the people believe that the only cruise ships that are going to be built in the future are Oasis class ships or bigger. And therefore we must have this pier. Now, to my knowledge, and what I can find out, is there are only 2 Oasis class ships on the Western Caribbean itinerary. Both of them would not be in Georgetown Harbour on the same day. Now remember, we got 5-7 days a week, right? So why are we building 2 pairs? Can we do what? Somebody sent me an article over the weekend, or it might have been last week, of the big concern in the Bahamas now, because they redid their harbour to accommodate the Oasis class ships. They had to redredge it, and I have the simulator report here that was available and again docking them and everything else, and why it could work and what couldn't work and everything else. Now the one of the cruise companies is building a pier on, I think it's Coco Key or something it's called, right? But they're also building the biggest water park and entertainment center, right, in the Western Hemisphere. So the big fear now in the Bahamas government is that, having spent all this money to prepare for the Oasis class ship, the cruise ships may be pulling the Oasis class out of Nassau and taking it to their private island. And I think Disney is doing something similar. They're building a whole entertainment thing for their people as well on another island, right? Now, there may be legitimate reasons of crime and overcrowding, everything else, to pull it in Nassau. The point I want to make is not because they are involved in the expenditure to make it ready for them, they have any loyalty to you. They are going where the most money is, right? But so again, why can't we do? If it can be justified, my position is it is not justified. My position is we don't need it, because we don't need the 400 to 600,000 increase in passengers. What we need is quality passengers, and we need to negotiate better rates for the Caymanian providers. Instead of selling a snorkel for $30, right? And but it can be assured 8, and the local provider is probably only getting 6. Should be the other way around. The ship could be selling for the $30, but the local provider should be getting the 24, right? Or the 22, whatever the difference is, right? So, and those are the kind of things that I believe we need to negotiate with the cruise industry. We can't negotiate from that position if we owe them this $200 million, right? We can do it now because we don't owe them anything, right? And we can help our own people by negotiating better deals. Because if you talk to the tour people, they'll tell you that everybody's in a race to the bottom under the present situation. Because the cruise ships are negotiating with different people each year, and they're trying to get the same thing they got last year at a lower rate this year. And because the local people need the business so bad, they're willing to do it to get something, right? So everybody's in a race to the bottom except the cruise industry, because they're not selling it any cheaper. They're just paying the local people less. And those are the kind of things that we need to be in a position to negotiate with the cruise industry in order to make the Caymanians who are in the business be better off and get more income from it.
All right. When you come back from a break, Mr. Miller, I want to ask you more about that and the notion of improving that visitor experience as they come off and return to the ships. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you can afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu, starting at just $3.50, gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shudden Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value menu, the deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices. KFC, so good.
We are in the hurricane season, and knowing what to do after a hurricane can be as important as preparing for the storm. After the passage of a hurricane, seek medical attention if it is needed at hospitals and clinics for those persons who are injured. Do not touch power lines and cables that are down. They may be active. Report them to 911 or the utilities emergency hotlines. Broken tree limbs should be removed from around homes or buildings if possible. This hurricane information has been brought to you by Breeze FM and Radio Radio Cayman.
It's your time, Cayman Islands. Time to have your say. The Cayman opposition will be hosting community meetings to discuss the future of Cayman's cruise industry. Get the accurate industry figures and ensure you have your say. Does Cayman lag behind our competitors? What are the complaints from passengers? And are tenders workable? Get the truth and help ensure Cayman's future cruise industry remains bright. Phase 1 of the opposition island-wide meetings will take place at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 2nd, Northside Civic Center. Wednesday, October 3rd, Bontown Civic Center. And Thursday, October 4th, Savannah Primary School Hall. Phase 2 of the district meetings will be scheduled next week. It is your time, Cayman Islands. It is time to have your say. The Cayman opposition, safeguarding our future.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And in the studio, I have the good company of Honorable Ezzard Miller as we talk about the port primarily. Now, Mr. Miller, a number of people, especially recently again, following some of the more public sort of pronouncements and disclosures, they've shared that if they're meeting family or friends who are coming in for a few hours on a cruise ship, if they're picking up, their guests, as they call it, so they've booked and they're going to go pick them up. Irrespective of that they're finding that a lot of the visitors who come by the cruise ships, as much as they enjoy that process of getting off the ship and then returning to the ship, one said it's an ordeal, another one said it's a nightmare. That standing in the line, the lack of shade, and the...
But again, and here is what we need to do. We need to determine what the problem is. Because if we believe that a pier is going to do that, then we barking up the wrong tree. The business case and the EIA both say that building a pier to tie the ship alongside is not going to necessarily speed the process of off the ship and on the ship. Why? Let me see if I can give you an analogy, which I've used at a couple of other things. You go in Miami tomorrow morning, Cayman Airways. What do? You go to the airport, you walk up to Cayman Airways counter, you give them your passport. In other words, you perform that, you present an identity. They give you a little one-page boarding pass. You then proceed through security, right? And if you're taking something that you want to bring back, you go customs and do what you want. And then you go sit down in a departure lounge that's air-conditioned and comfortable, right? When they announce the flight, what happens? You get up, you go to the gate, that sign over it says Cayman Airways, flight to Miami. The person checking you takes it and wipes it through an electronic reader. You get a green light and you go on board the plane. Now imagine if you were at the airport, right, lined up outside, right, and you were not allowed to go into the airport, right, until the plane was ready for you to board it. And you was going to do all of that inside the plane. Your identification, security clearance, custom clearance. How long do you think it would take to board that plane? So what we have to do is to determine what is the hold-up. I proffer that the hold-up is not the tender journey. Right? That's 6 or 8 minutes. Imagine if we treated our cruise passengers the same way we treat our airline passengers. And we put up a building down there, right? And when you arrive returning to the dock, right, there are 5 or 6 gates for you to go through, or doors into this building. But in the door you go through, you identify yourself as a cruise passenger. How can we do that? I think they use the room key now on the board, as I understand it. You present you put your room key to say, yes, I'm on one of them ships. You go through security. You clear customs, because as I understand it, customs clearance is very important to the cruise industry, because they don't want you to buy alcohol in Cayman to drink between here and Mexico. They want you to buy their liquor, drink their liquor on their ship, and when you get Fort Lauderdale, when you're getting back off, they give you liquor they bought in Cayman, right? And when there's a tender available, there's a sign over it says Sovereign of the Seas, right? You know that's your ship. You go there at the steam, at that thing, you dip your room key in, you get your green light, you go to tender. When you get to the ship, just as an extra security thing, you do the same thing. But you're walking fast. You're not going to go through all of these places, and I understand that they want to have one metal detector on getting back onto the ship, right? It's the same thing that they have some kind of... I'm not a big cruise person, right? So I really can't speak from experience. But I understand that when they come here in Cayman, you don't just walk to the door, walk onto the tender. They organize you, it depends on which tour you bought and all this kind of stuff, and that's what holds you up in the ship, right? So my position is that the most important thing, to offering a solution is to identify what the problem is. I have been told, and I'm going to find out this weekend or as soon as possible, that the Port Authority actually had such an agreement with the cruise passengers a couple of years ago. And they may even have bought some of the equipment. But it's in storage because if they put it in place, they can't justify the pier. Okay, now, you remember you had fingerprint equipment, $600,000, and it's still in some storeroom somewhere about. Now they did put it in place. So it could be a very similar situation, right? But again, that not necessarily has to be done by government, That's another business that some Caymanian entrepreneur could do, right? And provide this service to the cruise ships. Right? One of the other things that they will try to sneak out is that, tendering is so inconvenient and it's so dangerous, right? Well, I talk to people who go to cruises in Alaska. They use tenders. Nobody not falling overboard and turn into a block of ice, right? The information I have suggests that having tendered, delivered to shore and back to the ship, well, they only count on one way. They're not like the airport, they count on both ways, coming in, going out, right? They had 1.5 million passengers last year, and they had 18 incidents. Only one required any kind of medical treatment, and it was very minor, it was less than $2,000. So, and again, one of the things that we have always set out to do was to try to convert a cruise passenger to a stayover passenger. Think of the advertisement you could put in place, the deals you could offer with people inside of this departure lounge for the cruise passengers. By 4 days, you got the fifth one free, accommodations, sign up now, right? The journey from although it's only 6 or 7 minutes, 8 minutes, from the ship to the dock and from the dock to the ship, again, could be an event for people, Nice Cayman music, entertaining. What we could dress it up, right? Those are the kind of things that we can leave a lasting impression with the guy who's leaving.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Miller, we do have a caller online. We're speaking to Hon Ezzard Miller. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon again. Just a quick thing.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to call about the North Sound. And like I said, I don't know the North Sound. I called because I couldn't understand why people talk so much about it still. No, the sound is more the channel, right?
And it's both.
Yeah.
Coming out of the North Sound, you got a Northwester coming in some good size seas, or a Northeaster.
Everybody's talking more about the stilt in the North Sound.
Well, the reason they're talking about that is because it's a recurring thing. Even now, although it's been several years since we've done any dredging for those developments on the western side of the North Sound.
Yeah.
But it's still a problem.
I have the highest respect for those miners, and several times I've called in talk shows encouraging government to listen to their advice. Because the three sets of people, the master miners, the environmentalists, and the divers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The government should be listening to their advice, and they're not. And from all I'm hearing, this port in Georgetown is going to be a disaster. Again, you should listen to the masterminders, the whole more of them call in. If they think Red Bay is the place to put it, call in and get the people riled up to put it there. Because we have a limited environmental damage up there, but far, far less not knowing everything from Eden Rock right down to the 7 Mile Beach.
Yep. And no threat to 7 Mile Beach.
Yeah,
Okay, sir. Thanks for calling.
All right. Thanks very much, sir. And I think, Mr. Miller, as we look at the whole idea of what we're facing.
Let me get back to some more of their statistics,
Yeah.
right, because I understand that they. I don't know why the government published this document if they're not going to use it. Right? I'm not afraid to use it. They
This
should be.
public document, right?
Yeah, it was tabled in the Legislative Assembly. You can go down there and get a copy. But getting back to their thing, if we don't get this Oasis class ships, what can happen, right? And remember now that they told us the same thing with the Freedom class ships, you know. When they came out in 2006, they avoided Cayman for 6 months. But because the passengers liked Cayman so much, and they started pressuring them, they had to come back to Cayman. And they're quite tender. Now, I understand that the tenders are unloading a Freedom class ship now with 4,500 passengers in 2 hours. Right? But getting back now, 2013, right? And this is after the Oasis class boats were brought out, right? This is without those. In 2013, we had 481 ship calls. That's not 481 ships. Some ships come the same week or the other week. We had 1.375 million passengers, right? In 2014, we had 561 ship calls, 1,609,555. 2015, 573, 1,716,812. Now, again, although we had, and it's still going up, 2016, we had 575 ship calls, 1,711,849. Although we had more ships by 2 calls, right? We had 5,000 roughly less passengers, which was a dip of 0.29%. 2017, we had 569 ship calls, but we had 1,728,444 passengers, which was an increase of 0.97 over the year before. Now, I don't know whether they got the 9%, whether they didn't see the decimal, right, or they moved it 1 point, because that's the only 9 that exists anywhere. Well, 9 up. So, again, there is no evidence, right, that the government, in its government statistics, right, that says that cruise passengers, because we're not getting the Oasis class ship, is going to be cut in half.
The public meeting, I think, questions was asked of the cruise ship representatives of their 2 vice presidents. And there was some discussion following that by members of the public. From your perspective?
But that was troubling to me, and I have written to the Anti-Corruption Commission for them to investigate it. Again, not necessarily that I believe they may be money crossing that is corrupting individuals, but I believe that's a serious corruption of the process, and it's an opportunity for them to influence who making the decision.
So no man should be a judge in his own cause, sort of.
Right, and I mean, we can say what we are, but we're humans. If I get on a plane, come down here to promote you doing something in West Bay, right, and you're going to decide next week who can do that for you, and I'm one of those, kind of what people talk about, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Even
right?
if a good inference, nothing else.
And I don't think that should have ever happened. I'm also, so I have asked the only body that we have, which is the Anti-Corruption Commission, to look into it, because the people needs to know, right, that this is being done above board. And I don't have any evidence that it's not being done. But the perception of two of the biggest players in it being on the platform, advocating for, mine from I wasn't there, I was out there, but reports I get is that when they were questioned as, if we don't build this port, are you going to stop coming to Cayman? Because all you're going to have is Oasis class ships. The answer, no. Cayman is a very important part of our business, and it's very important, and it's a very popular destination for our passengers. So we're coming to Cayman. We're just saying we're not bringing the Oasis class ship. right? But there's no threat to pull out the Freedom Class ones or the ones that are coming, right? So we don't have to, so that doesn't represent any decline because we haven't had an Oasis class ship yet to add to it. And the question is, do we want to add an Oasis? And let's look at an Oasis class ship. What do you think it's called, Oasis? You know, this thing about being a desert and you find an Oasis.
Mhm.
Everything that you need to do is at the Oasis and not out in the sands, right? So the whole point of these huge ships is not to bring extra people to Cayman, to enjoy Cayman or to spend money in Cayman. They're building them bigger for two main reasons, I would Prof. One, there's space to provide more entertainment and more facilities for their passengers on ship, which they've previously had to go ashore to get, i.e. Zip lines, water parks, rock climbing walls, all these sorts of stuff, right? So they have space in these big ships now to put all of that. And what they're trying to do, plus they can add more passengers, right? Maybe not for the same fuel, but it's better economy of scale. Because they might burn the bigger ship, obviously would burn more fuel than the Freedom Class. But their reason for building a bigger ship is to have more facilities on the ship for them to extract more money from the passenger. Not to bring them here from spend more money downtown Georgetown, right? So we need to understand their philosophy. And you know, when you read the literature surrounding because it's very interesting to dig deeply into this whole cruise industry in the Caribbean. And it's very few countries, if any, you can find that there is a real satisfaction between the cruise lines and the government, i.e. in what they're taking versus what they're giving to the country. Because most of the places that have invested heavily to attract them in the first place are not getting the benefits that they thought they were going to get from it, right? And there's this constant tension between whether a country should be developing its stayover tourism versus developing its. I mean, imagine what we could do in terms of qualifying Caymanians, getting Caymanians a job in the stayover tourism industry with 200 million versus extending a dock, right, for cruise passengers that we don't really need and that is not necessarily going to, because the other thing that they're telling people, or they're telling the people in the business, and unfortunately they have many of them convinced of it, is that if they build a pier, right, because you can get on off faster, they're going to spend more time on shore, right? Again, that doesn't, the facts that they're best experts in the world, they say they hired, says. We know that the cruise ship comes in Georgetown now at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They leave 3, 4 o'clock in the evening, right? So that's 7.5, 8 hours, somewhere around there. But it's the time the person spends on shore, right? They compared Bria, one of their reports, Cozumel, St. Martin, BVI, and Cayman. Cozumel, St. Martin, and BVI, with piers, averaged 4.6 hours past the time spent on shore. Because the reason people go on is not because they get on and off easier. Most people, when they go back on, don't come back off. Very few. Cayman is 4 hours. Right? Now we're going to spend 250, 300 million, 200 million, right, to get 0.6 of an hour? Right? The numbers don't justify what they're doing. And they're telling people that because you have more people, because they can stay longer, they can spend more money. They're saying that they and remember now that these St. Martin, Cozumel, and BVI, all the ships are there for the same 7-8 hours a day, right? But they still only average 4.6 hours passengers on shore, right? But because they're on shore now, they're spending 125. Now they're going to raise it to 230. They're going to spend twice as much.
All right, Mr. Miller, we've got to take a quick break.
Yep.
When we come back, more talk today. Please stay tuned.
Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Radio Cayman Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio featuring Will Sinatra.
Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, reggae, dancehall, Latin, soca, urban gospel, old school.
The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of insurance agent Michael Webster from Cayman Insurance Center.
Don't take chances with your family's future.
CUC advises motorists using Shamrock Road in front of Medak House to exercise extreme caution on Thursday, July 21st between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. as ABC Trenching will be working on the median to replace the base for the streetlight that was recently damaged in a motor vehicle accident. The 2 inner lanes closest to the median will be closed in that area to allow suitable space for ABC Trenching to safely replace the base. CUC thanks you for your cooperation. Tune in Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, and soca.
The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of Fitness Plus and Train with Dre.
Get top-rated personal training or build your very own home or office gym today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. And in the studio, Honorable Hon Ezzard Miller, as the Honorable Opposition Leader, is our guest. And we're talking about the cruise sport. Mr. Miller, we do have some calls online, at least, you know. Well, thank you. We believe so as well. As we go to our phones. Good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ebanks.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Yeah, I get a good thanks. You know, how are you and the family and all that out there in the Radio Cayman.
Very thankful, sir.
God bless you all throughout the world, and thankful to know that you got Mr. Miller on there again today. Good afternoon, Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for calling. Really appreciate it.
You're very much welcome, sir. I know I don't get a call very often, but anyway, if I be dragging on too long, you just tell him, say, well, you know how many excuses I got to pick up on somebody else. You know how kind of way?
Yeah.
Yeah, well. Anyway, my wife and children will send their love to you all, I know. And
thank you very much, sir. Give them our regards as well, please.
Sure. And give daddy our love to you, know.
Will do.
Your whole family and me, your daddy sailed the sea together.
Yes, sir.
So while you're talking about the dock, you know, make you know that I've been on the ship with him, and we were battling out there lots of time in the storm weather and cold weather and dry weather, you know. But give all time we're still alive.
Right.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. Mr. Miller, I know you're speaking about the dog, and thank you very much, you know, for you and others that's on the talk show, and talking about the dock up in Georgetown and otherwise, you know.
Yes, sir.
And I don't want to forget Miss Susan, thank her for good help and all the others that work in there, you know. I've been hearing Mr. J. Hart on it sometime, too. But anyway, as for me now, talking about dredging, I always against the dredging around the Cayman Island here. I don't see that we got anywhere for dredging. Coastline dredging or other further.
Yeah.
For me, it's no dredging.
Yes, sir.
I know one time in Poole, Mr. Tom Jefferson, God bless his soul, he came to our house and on campaigning time. And one of us he said to me, he said, no dredging. I said, thank you very much. No dredging. But anyway, you know, I say we can't afford to destroy what God has given us, you know.
Exactly.
And I say like what some of the old people say, we better leave our well alone, you know. So I wouldn't say that you can improve something on the dock there in Georgetown by doing it the right way. But if you're gonna improve on it, try to make it so that a cruise ship or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 if you want to do that way. But anyway, just leave it as it is. But if you're gonna put a dock, go out for the dock, go out to the ocean, move out towards the ocean, and don't bring the ocean into the shores. Because anytime you dredge in there, you make the water deeper.
Yes, sir.
And that's bringing the water into the shores. And may God be merciful to you. See even say a tropical storm or Category 1 hurricane come in from the northwest, I call voices now. Us they can do with us sometimes. Oh Lord, how much? And so I would say no dredging in Georgetown, and I can't tell you where else we dredge around Cayman because it destroying the coral and destroying the fishes and you name it, environment, you know. So I would think that the best thing to leave wherever alone. I can't stay about spots and other parts of what it could do, but I would still say no dredging.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Miller, a lot more I could talk about. You know, I want to touch on one a little bit too, Mr. Miller, if you could help us out something with this. I know getting off the coast of the dredging and the dock in Georgetown, but I want to make you know that I walked up there and building the new dock and I got, you know, not
yes,
still small, but the big dock, really got enough. And I would say this, that the first ship that came in there after they were finished, that was Cook Express. And that was Mr. Berkeley Bush and Captain Charles in them time, I think, when it was built in that people didn't even hard days or they gave all times.
Right.
But that's how they done it. They launched out. And they don't know dredging.
Yep.
They don't know dredging. But they tried to blast the bottom there with dynamite.
Right up in the Hogs Eye Bay, there's some rocks there.
Yeah,
I think
right.
Mr. Ard McLean was the person that was doing the dynamite and doing the dynamite in the front there.
Okay. Yeah. But it not got much ways.
No.
Rock it real hard. Okay, Mr. Miller.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
I want to touch on you with is to see that we can get some save some sand ground. You know where it's all sand ground? That's not right down on the beach.
Right.
That old black sand.
Yeah.
Save some sand ground.
Put it on corn land. Okay, sir.
So all discriminating business down there, but Cayman goes for that.
Right.
And they say they not bury them, they can't dig no grave around yard no more to bury nobody. So try to see if we can save some sand ground for us here. You know what sand ground good for too? Plant corn, potatoes,
corn, feed potato. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Agree, sir. All right, sir. I'll talk to you all about it. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks very much.
You know, one of the disappointing things here, Sterling, is that in September 2015, the government had 3 options to do something in Georgetown Harbor, right? One option was to extend the existing facility seaward and put in 2 piers. Another option was to just build a pier, no reclamation of land, right? Just build a pier out to the deep water to take the big ships. And which was option A was prioritizes the function. Option B was prioritizing the environment. Option C was a final EIA concept. Now, the government chose option C, right? Let me tell you some information about these various options. The area to be dredged under option A was 15.3 hectares, which is 2.4. 1 hectare is 2.4, so you're looking there almost 35 acres, roughly, right? The economic loss to Georgetown by destroying these areas, this 35 acres, and the impacts on the reef, right, was a total of reef destroyed, 5.5 million per year, reef impact zone adjacent reef in George, 4.5 million to 6 million. So we had a 10 to 11.5 million loss to the economy in Georgetown on the option A. And you had to dredge roughly 35 acres. Option B, the dredged area was 1.5 hectares, right? A little bit less than 4 acres, right? The reef destroyed and the economic loss from that, right, was 1.1 million per year. The reef impact zone was 1.5 million. So the total loss to Georgetown under option B was 2.6 million. Option C, which is the option they took and which they're now developing and had the EIA and all this stuff done on. The dredged area was 13 hectares, close to 30 acres, right? The reef area destroyed, economic loss, 4.5 million. The reef impact zone, 4.5 to 6 million. So you're back up now to 9-10 million, right? Now, what befuddles me, right, is the government keep telling us that we are under option C and under option A, reclaiming 6-7 acres or making 6 or 7 acres of new land. I agree with you with the word reclamation. 7 acres, but they're not going to put none on it, no upland development, right? But they had an option that was just putting a pier out there, right, which actually lined the cruise ships up facing the wind, right, instead of being broadside to the wind. And this is my understanding that this is what the British marine engineering firm Mott MacDermott offered them, right? Now, what I'd like the government to do is to come and tell us, right, why would they pick one of the worst options? Why did they, if they talk about we want to keep our environment pristine, we want to keep Georgetown how it is, right? Why have we accepted the one that is going to have the greatest economic loss, right, and the greatest and the second greatest amount of trade?
Okay. With that, let's pause and take our news. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
A 21-year-old man of Bodden Town was arrested on Monday following an incident that took place just before 3:30 a.m. that day. Police and other emergency services were called out by the 911 Communications Center to a residence on Birch Tree Hill Road in West Bay, where it was reported that a man had unlawfully entered the residence, caused damage to items inside, and stolen an item from the residence. The man returned to the property later that morning, where he was arrested and taken into custody. The man has been formally charged with burglary, criminal trespass, and damage to property. He appeared in court on October 3rd and was remanded into custody. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Kim Kardashian West's bodyguard is being sued for $6.1 million by the celebrity's insurer after she was robbed in Paris 2 years ago. Insurer AIG claims Pascal Duvert and his company, Protect Security, negligently protected the star's private apartment. Kardashian West was robbed at gunpoint and tied up during Paris Fashion Week in October of 2016. AIG paid for the cost of the jewelry stolen in the incident. Egypt Air has defended an interview with actress Drew Barrymore that was slated on social media after being published in its In-Flight magazine. The article, in which the ET star is quoted talking about motherhood, went viral after being posted on Twitter. Barrymore's representative said she did not participate in the interview. Egypt Air said it was a professional magazine interview, and the article's author insisted it was genuine and far from fake. And a U.S. town has warned its residents not to be too concerned about drunk-looking birds stumbling around town. Police in the northern Minnesota town of Gilbert say they have received reports of birds flying into windows, cars, and acting confused. Well, the intoxicated state of the birds is due to berries fermenting ahead of time due to an earlier than usual frost. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. And truly is, as I say this to the Honourable Opposition Leader, and to all the elected members of the Legislative Assembly as they come into our studios. But Mr. Miller, with respect to all the others, you as Opposition Leader constitutionally, there are certain responsibilities, obligations that are vested in your office, as is in the Honourable Premier, the Speaker, and the like, those offices that are recognised under our Constitution. So to be able to have you sit next to me, so this was in Cayman, I would say, But with that in mind, if I may ask of you, only because I don't think I can give a proper answer to those who've asked me, there are a few individuals, I give them 3 categories. A larger number, and only this is not scientific, who are saying they're not quite sure yet where they are in relation to the port or any of the projects, partly because they're not sure they have sufficient information, partly because they would like to believe that they live in a democracy where if a government is duly elected, let the government get on with its business, and if there's an issue, to come to the public. There's a smaller group that says, well, we don't like what we see, and we're going to agitate, to get more. And there's a slightly smaller group who said, we like what we see, we like where the government's at, so let's side with them. But those 3 groups, indirectly and independently, have asked of me, well, what if, we want this thing to go forward to a referendum, so there's a final nail to say, yep, this is the mandate. What do we do? How do we do it?
Well, right now, based on what the government, the pronouncements of the Minister of Tourism and his technical team, the only hope of getting more information, the only hope of stopping this is through the referendum. If we don't get the 5,400 signatures that we need, there'll be no referendum. And I understand that one of the pronouncements of the ministry at the meeting that they held, the public meeting that they held last week, was that once they've given up the contract, there's no more public consultation. Right? Again, I don't know why they would make that declaration. I can't see the rationale behind it. But the government has the votes to do it. I mean, the opposition can say all we want. Anything that comes to a vote, we're going to lose. Right? So it's up to the people now. And what I don't understand is why the government and the pro-port people have taken they claim they have majority support. They claim that there's more people for the port than against it. So if that's true, have a referendum, right? Because if you have that kind of confidence, then the referendum is going to give you a true mandate to build a port in Georgetown. But they seem to be to think that because they know that and because they proclaim that, a referendum is a waste of time. And I don't see it that way at all. I think that at a very minimum, the people will know more about what's being done. Because if we get to the threshold where they deliver the 5,000 plus signatures to the government doesn't have a choice. They have to call a referendum. Now, they don't have to wait 6 months to call it. They don't have to wait till the next election to call it. The voters, this is up to date, right? So they can call it in a couple of weeks. But then both sides will have the opportunity to go out to influence public opinion. Vote yes or vote no. And each voter will have the choice themselves and the power to say yes or to say no.
But respectfully, Mr. Miller, this is where I have sort of said to some individuals, recognizing that the question that's going to be posed if there is a referendum, it's going to be worded by the government, by cabinet. And one individual, she said, listen, if the question is, do you support a port? Do you think the government should build a cruise port, a cargo port? Yes, by all means, she's going to put yes. But she doesn't, at this stage, believe that we have enough information as to where to put a port, what is the design of that port, what is it going to cost, how is it going to work. But yes, she wants a port. Whether that's going to be, built tomorrow and, partner with somebody else or it's financed in-house, So that wording of that question, for that individual who wants a port and is inclined to say, yes, let's move forward, but may not necessarily want that particular one, then what do you do?
Well, I mean, the democracy dictates that the government will have the authority to say what the question asks. But at a minimum, the public is going to get more information. Do you really believe the government would have come out and had a public meeting if we hadn't tabled the motion in the Legislative Assembly?
Well, I would want to believe so.
But the second question is, so why they haven't had one in 5 years? Right? Do you believe they regret having that meeting? I believe they do. Right?
It's a democracy.
I'm fairly confident that they regret having it because it showed their lack of preparation, or worst case scenario, the lack of respect for the people to prepare for the meeting, because they were really ill prepared for the meeting. So at a very minimum, the public is going to get more information. And that's what we in the opposition is trying to do. We're trying to go out and tell the people what we have and what we are concerned about, and provide them with information that they can make a more informed decision. Whether you want to sign a petition, do this is something that is, maybe the majority support it, but I'm not sure, right? Maybe some of the things that they're telling us sound good, but when we dig deeper in the documents, when we dig deeper in the statistics, right, what they're saying is not really justified.
Right. I go back to the leader I referenced earlier in relation to it, and only because, as she has shared, Cayman is in her country of birth, but this has been home forever. This is where her children have grown, and hopefully her grandchildren equally. And as they come into their own, she's seeing down the road 25 years, hopefully she'll still be here enjoying life and the like. It isn't the financial cost. It isn't so much the economic impact. Because nobody can rightfully, in her mind, say, well, if you build something here, it's not going to affect over here in relation to the South Bal Beach. You could reduce the probability that the impact would be as negative as it would be otherwise. But she's sharing that with what is now being speculated, what has come out, I use the word in sort of a roundabout way, she's more inclined to believe that there needs to be, a greater public awareness and education and a consensus.
And just because we run out of time,
yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about this preposterous idea that we need to expand the cargo dock to get bigger ships, right? Now, again, let's talk realism. If you go down by the dock, sometime you see a small little boat named the Enagua Cloud, right? Alongside the one that comes in the Seaboard Marine. She's a catboat alongside a schooner, right? I don't know anybody that are getting containers cheaper on Seaboard than they get on Enagua Cloud, right? The rates are set between here and Florida, right? So this idea that because we gonna get bigger ships can bring more containers, we're going to put the containers. How long are you going to have to wait? Your cargo has to stay in Miami before we have enough there for a big ship. Because a big ship can come with half a load, I spoke to most of the cargo providers now, ship cargo providers, in one form or another. They tell me two things. They're coming weekly, some bi-weekly. They're not leaving in a cargo behind, hardly, when they come each week. It's quick in, quick out. You take cargo to their distribution point or receiving point in Florida, it's usually here within a week. Right? And they can go to bigger ships. But if they went to bigger ships, what does it mean? It means they're going to come in probably once a month or maybe twice a month. So your cargo going to sit in Miami for a month before you can get it. In that kind of scenario, because everything here is imported, you are going to have to increase your inventory by so much to make bigger container, to get more containers to get the ship here, right? None of our businesses, none of the hardware building supplies businesses are set up to double or quadruple their inventory because that could cost money.
Bigger space to store, but more money to buy the inventory.
And it going to cost money.
Right.
So the prices and everything going up because the bank can charge them money, right? What about perishables? Are we then, because we're not getting 2-3 ships a week, right? We're going to bring them in by plane? You think that's cheaper? I don't think so, right? So cost of living going to go up, right? if we take the money from the port to give it to the cruise lines to build a pier, where's the subsidy for the cargo? Cargo going up, right? And this idea that they float that, you know, sometimes I think they just say things, you know, right, without really doing any kind of research. Yes, it is true that much of the produce is produced in Central America and the northern shores of South America. And yes, it does cross within some distance of Cayman going to Florida to be repackaged and sent back to Cayman, right? But they ain't gonna stop here and take some off. That's just not how the shipping system works, right? You know? And the other thing is that the preposterous idea that floated by the port that we can turn Georgetown into a transshipment port, people are living in La La Land. I mean, look at what's happening in the world with container ships. They had to expand the Panama Canal to take what they call the Panamax container ships. They were probably carrying, 10,000, 15,000, right? The ships that they're building now are costing twice that. They can't come through the Panama Canal. So much so that it is my understanding that the Chinese, where we mostly come from, are building a big port on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua and a big port on the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua. And they had trains running between.
Yeah.
The original talk about was that they were going to dig a new canal, right? They abandoned that because it's cheaper to do it, right? When it comes to containerized cargo ports, if you want to see what a containerized cargo port looks like, the next time you're flying into Kingston, look at Kingston wharfs, right? Can you really envisage that in Georgetown Harbor, right? So and where the Chinese are building a huge containerized port in Mariel, Cuba. Many of the eastern seaboard ports have expanded for more containerized cargo from these sources, right. And we just don't have the land space or the kind of deep water harbor. The other thing, if you look on the left side of the plane landing in Kingston, you will see the containerized port. If you look on the right side, you'll see all the ships out there anchored on the continental shelf, the shallow area. They anchor around Cayman.
Right. All right, let's take a final break. When we come back, more talk today.
Who's the leader in savings?
It's Foster's. Canadian Thanksgiving is October 8th, which means it's time to feast. All of your Thanksgiving favorites are on sale this week, plus the best items from Canada's own President's Choice, so you can prepare the best Thanksgiving dinner this side of the Canadian border. Want us to do the cooking? Order a fully prepared Thanksgiving dinner with a turkey or ham, sides, dessert, and rolls for only $79.99. Happy Canadian Thanksgiving from Foster's IGA.
At Foster's Food Fair IGA, we care.
One TradeX knows there's more than one way to invest. One TradeX is the Cayman Islands' only fully licensed online broker-dealer, offering discount trading services to individual investors and traders, hedge fund managers, and family offices. One TradeX has the most competitive online trading prices of any offshore broker worldwide, with no custody or management fees, free demonstration accounts, and no charge to open an account with a $5,000 minimum deposit. Trade stocks, options, futures, bonds, and Forex. Learn more and open your free demo account today at OneTradeX.com. OneTradeX, the Cayman Islands' #1 choice for online brokerage. OneTradeX is licensed to conduct securities investment business by the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority.
Rotary Central Music Extravaganza is back. Be a winner this November with your Rotary Central Music Extravaganza ticket purchase of only $25. Win that grand prize of $40,000 CI dollars. Second prize $4,000. 6 $1,000 prizes and much, much more. Yes, the 23rd Annual Music Extravaganza, Saturday, November 24th, Royal Palms, West Bay Road from 7 p.m. Featuring music by Dr. Bob's Experiment, Fire Squad, and Altered Minds. Only 8,000 golden tickets now on sale through Rotary Central members and Rotary ticket sellers. Rotary Central Music Extravaganza proceeds fund over 50 community inspiration projects. You can be a winner. Your ticket, your chance, your community. Rotary Central Music Extravaganza is back.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for sharing and for the comments that have come through. Mr. Miller, maybe I can read this one. Says that, in relation to the meeting the evening that the government hosted with on the cruise, so that a number of questions that were asked at the meeting, including about the prospective bidders, about the surrounding circumstances of the port, were spot on. Says that the public is definitely in need of more information in order to make an informed decision. So kudos to Mr. Miller for at least.
But again, you see, I have had the public decide against me, right? But I still believe that they have the right to do that. And I think I have as you know, my mantra is participatory democracy. This is right up my alley, right? I believe you have to give them the information. You have to listen to the information that they have, right? So that they can make a decision. And if that decision is not what you would like that decision to be, you have to respect it. And if you believe if you believe strong enough that you have done enough research and that your decision is the right solution, then you should be able to give them even more information and sit down and have an intellectual, a substance-based discussion, not an emotional, fair, right, discussion that, don't treat them like you don't have no sense. Treat them that, listen, what we need to do is we need to have a substance, intellectual discussion about this. Because I tell everybody that, one of my favorite subjects in postgraduate university was decision-making and the theory behind decision-making and stuff. And I will respect any decision you make if I can audit it, meaning you can explain how you got to your decision, right? Because when I listen to how you got to your decision, I might have information, as we have here, that is directly diabolically opposed to what information I have, right? I'm not saying that the government has maliciously come to this decision that we must build a pier. I believe that the lens at which they are looking at the facts that are presented to them, right? And you understand that. I'm an international consultant. I know what consultant 101 say. Figure out what a man wants, what a man paying you to say, right? And then generate the kind of evidence to support the decision that he wants to make if you want to continue to have a consultant relationship with them, right? But even in the cases of knowing, because none of this was done on the basis of what is the best solution, all of their expensive reports was done on the premise that the cruise lines say they want a pier, we have to build a pier. So all of their analysis was based on how do we justify a pier. Not even yet was the best pier, how to build this pier, right? And how to pay for this pier. That's all the business case is about. If you look at what few pages of their strategic outline business case, which should be the strategy, how you come about the strategy, clearly identifying what the problem is, what is the possible solutions to these problems, right? It doesn't exist. No consideration in these documents is given to some kind of incremental improvements of what we have to try and alleviate the problem. And we may eventually, right, wind up that, yes, a pier is justified, but the incremental improvements that we make should in fact make the utilization of a pier better, right? So, but none of that is under consideration because these people put in their manifesto, build a cruise pier, right? They believe it is necessary to apply that promised solution to the cruise industry, whether it's applicable or not. The worst nightmare we can have, right, is one, we spend $200 million right? But our customers are less satisfied, and the cruise ship pull out.
Or spend more.
Well, they're not going to spend more, they're gone.
No, I mean, more than 20 million.
And the other thing is, and the other thing that is not really reflected in this, right, is the real threat of Cuba and its cruise tourism and what it can do with cruise tourism, right? Might I believe that most of our passengers come from the U.S., and the U.S., many of them still believe that if they go in there, you know, they can somehow drop communism in their bag, they're going back on the ship, and they can carry it to the United States, right? Right? I mean, we have this terrible experience they've had down there with opening the embassy where people got headaches, right? And we're trying to find out what kind of, sonic weapon the Cubans have that we didn't know about that is giving people headaches. I don't know, right? But what I'm saying is that I don't think we've looked realistically at the alternatives to getting us to better customer passenger satisfaction and more income per passenger in the Caymanian business. Those are the two things that should be our objective, right? Because it can't be that we're selling a tour to Stingray City and the people who's providing the boat, providing the entertainment, taking the people out there, are making less out of it than the cruise line.
And less now than they did 30 years ago, perhaps.
Yeah. You know, and so again, that's what we need to address. Listen, I fully understand, I fully support the Caymanians who have invested in the development of the cruise business. But building a pier is not necessarily going to help them. Right? What we need to do is to make sure that we're in a position to always say to the cruise industry, you come into Cayman, these are the conditions under which you come in. Or people in the business who are doing the tours, or taxi operators, people who are doing the North Sound trips, or Turtle Farm, must get more out of a ticket than you do. Because you're not investing in anything other than bringing them here, and you got paid for that already. What you extract from our economy as a percentage of the sales tickets that you sell is extra profit for you. But once we get to the position where we owe them this humongous amount of money, right, on our whole survival, look at what they did us with Royal Water Terminal. People forget that, you know. Remember, we got an agreement with them that so much money was going to pay back the finance and all. You know that with all the interest increasing security because of terrorism and everything else, we couldn't increase the security charge to them because we owe them a little bit of money. What do you think is going to position when we owe them 200, 300, 400 million? Right? And where are we going to find the money to enhance the cruise passengers' experience? Whether that's on 7 Mile Beach, whether that's at Stingray City, whether that's going north side to going to Crystal Caves, or going to the Botanic Park, or going to the Pedro St. James. How are we going to put in place the system to handle another 600,000 passengers in from November to March? That's 6 months, 5 months, range of area.
Because that increase will be doing that higher.
Of course.
Yeah, not
during the summer months.
When it's relatively okay.
We might get some there, right? But we're not looking to provide additional attractions to the cruise passenger. You know, how can we enhance the journey, make the journey to Crystal Caves better, so that those who like nature and those kinds of things can visit there, and they can visit Botanic Park, right? Those are not the things we worried about here. What we worried about here is we're spending $200 million to extend the dock. Now, some of that money, if the problem can be solved, as I suggested earlier, by some kind of a departure lounge and a change in the system of how we handle things, some of that money could go to finish the East-West Arterial Way, which would make it possible to go to Crystal Caves, right? Make it possible to go to Botanic Park, Make it possible to go to Pedro St. James, right? Make it possible to go to Rum Point. Make it possible to go to East End, right? But again, don't be not worried about that. The cruise ship have said, if we want the Oasis ship here, we must build a pier. We are determined to build a pier. What are we going to do with the 6,000 passengers on an Oasis ship when they come?
So with that in mind, and with all those passengers, 15, 20, 25,000, one berthing, so to speak.
One day, yeah.
Wow. Population of 60,000? Right. Mr. Miller, always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and let's let me announce our meetings, please, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Get some free advertisement here. Susanna looking right.
No, she's.
We are at Savannah tonight, 7:30 at the school hall, primary school hall. Monday night, October the 8th, we're at the John A. Cromber School Hall in West Bay. Tuesday night, we're at the South Sound Community Hall. Wednesday we're at the Seafarers Association Meeting Hall in Prospect. Thursday, we're going to Mr. MLA Kenneth Bryan is having a meeting in his constituency. So we're going to support him in holding that meeting. And then our grand finale is going to be Monday, October the 15th in East End at the Civic Center. We encourage the people to come out. We don't have all the answers, but we certainly are willing to share what information we have. And some of the information that the government is not telling you about, that's in their documentation, you need to know.
So tonight in Savannah?
Tonight in Savannah.
All meetings at 7:30?
7:30, yeah.
Right.
And we have from 7:30 to 8, Mr. Courtney Platt has offered, and he does a slideshow. Because, again, one of the things that the government did last Wednesday night was show only the dead reef in Georgetown Harbour. And their position is that the docking can destroy anything. He paints a complete different picture. Right? And it's amazing. I mean, it's been quite a while that I haven't done in a scuba diving in Georgetown Harbour, Eden Rock, or Soda Reef. But it was a time when I did. Right? It'd probably take more lead than you could afford to buy to get Ezzard down at depth now. But I know what my limitations are. But I mean, when you see the amount of fish and that are going to be just wiped out by this dock is unbelievable. And we believe that is what we have going for us that is more important than getting an Oasis class ship, because that's going to just completely destroy the experience for all cruise passengers.
All right. Mr. Miller, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And I trust you will enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and the week will be as productive. Huh?
Yep.
Hey, to our listeners, please come back tomorrow. Join Mr. Art in the morning for the record. We're scheduling something. And thank you, Mr. Miller. And his guest is MLA, Mr. Arden McLean, former Minister for Works, will be his guest. Just trying to work something out for a little discussion. We'll see how that works out for us on Talk Today. Till then, be blessed.
Of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.